and welcome to the Oversight Global's The Energy of Gratitude series, where all month long we are deep diving into the practice of gratitude, a super quick, super easy, yet highly beneficial tool that you can use for positivity and success. My name is Angelie and I am your series host, as well as the founder of Oversight Global. At Oversight Global, we address the consciousness crisis in the world by advocating for awareness and consciousness. We strive to educate and empower individuals and businesses to be aware of and strive to fulfill their fullest potential and uniquely contribute to the world. Today, I'm excited to welcome Simon Rinne. Simon is a husband, father, social worker, and men's mental health advocate for Queensland's Sunshine Coast. Simon has lived with mental illness for over 20 or 30 years, and it uses this experience to inspire men to open up about what's going on inside and step onto a path of recovery. Simon, welcome. So excited that you're here.
Hello, and thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here too.
Of course. So let's go ahead and jump into talking about gratitude. So can you tell us, what does gratitude mean to you?
Huge question. I guess for me, it's finding the joy back in our lives and it's rediscovering the things that make us feel good and make us tick. Because I guess when we become adults, I'm not sure what it's like for you, but for me, a lot of the time you feel like you're living on autopilot. And you kind of go through the daily motions. You get up, go to work, come home. You might have kids. Like I've got 2 kids, and you do the nighttime routine, you get to bed, and then you just do it all again tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And so practicing gratitude, and I found gratitude through my mental health story. It's been a way that I go, okay, life's busy, life's hectic, but through gratitude, I can start to rediscover those things that make me feel good, and they ground me in the moment as well. So when I'm practicing gratitude, I feel like I'm more present in the world and with those around me, and it's just a good thing to do. But it's taken me a while to really understand a way of gratitude that works for me as well, because it hasn't always been easy. I've started in the gratitude journaling, for example, and like most people, you kind of give up after a while because you seem to be regurgitating the same big 3 things. It could be like family, health, work, or house, or whatever. And so I initially didn't like gratitude and finding grateful stuff because I found it hard and difficult, and it felt like homework. But through adapting the style and talking with a psychologist about how I could do that works for me, I found something that really does work, and it's easy to do as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you hit on a couple of pretty great points. I mean, the first, life as you get to an adult, it's kind of like you're in this forever hamster wheel, and you're kind of do it, you get used to the motion. So it's super important that gratitude just kind of breaks that up a little bit and helps you be present in the moment instead of just continuously being on this record. And then it's great to point out that even though somebody might start a gratitude practice, it's a lifelong journey of tweaking the things that you find are helpful for you to really work uniquely for you. People understanding that just because you start a practice doesn't mean that that's going to be the practice for the rest of your life. It definitely changes, and especially with I found that my gratitude practice changes with different circumstances that I'm in. If I'm having health challenges or if I'm going through some sort of a challenge in life, it's going to change. So,
and particularly because I bought the gratitude journal, and or I bought 2. I've bought 2 in my time as well, and you start off with all the best intentions, and then you get maybe 10 pages in, for me, and then it remained uncompleted, and then you feel like a bit of a failure, that gratitude's not for you, or you're not good enough to do gratitude, and you don't get the concepts. But I think it's, as you said, it's just tweaking it and to find something that does work. And it does take a bit of practice, and sometimes a coach or a therapist or a mentor or someone who's done it previously can be a really good person to bounce ideas off and find the thing that does work for you.
Right. Exactly. Great point. So, how about telling us how you have found that gratitude for you personally and in your life has affected you? I mean, I know from your intro that, you've gone through some stuff. So, did you use gratitude to kind of help you along?
Yeah, so I mean, my mental health journey is one that for over a long time. It's 30 years, but it's not until 2020 that I got introduced to gratitude. So in 2020, I experienced burnout, and I was working full time in a 9-to-5 job, very high KPI environment, so a lot of stress associated with that job. I was in a career that didn't fulfill me as well. Like, it wasn't the career that I've always wanted. It's just one that I kind of fell in after high school and after university. We had 2 kids, so we had 2 kids under 3, or I think. Don't quote me on that. My wife would have a go at me because I don't know the age of my kids at a certain point of time, like most dads. But I was also studying the master's degree part-time as well. Then we had COVID. So we had COVID as well, and lockdowns and all the stuff that's associated with that. So I burnt out, and I was mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, just absolutely drained. And I ended up having to take 4 months off of work. And I was lucky enough to do that. I had the leave available to do that. And through that process, I started talking to a mental health social worker. And one of the things was, as part of the burnout recovery, is rediscovering joy. Because when you're burnt out, joy is one thing that goes, and it's hard to get back. And you become very cynical about the world. And so she recommended gratitude. And so I started the gratitude journal, the 3 things, and it didn't really work out. And then I left it aside for a few months. Then I found another journal which was similar, and this one focused on goals for the day. So then I'd start doing that, but then I'd find it was just regurgitating the same goals as well, and I'm just like, it's just not working for me. And so I went through that recovery process, got back to work, and then this year I had another relapse in my mental health, and I got really bad depression this time. And it was aligning with the end of my degree, and I wanted to start this business, Mindful Men, which I'm doing now, but I was stuck in that old job. And so I started seeing a psychologist, and he said, let's go back to gratitude journaling. And I'm like, no, it just doesn't work for me. And I've tried it before, it doesn't work. And he said, okay, let's do it differently. And so what he recommended to do was to break my day down in hourly chunks and write down what did I do in that particular hour. So, for example, it could be, right this hour right now, having this amazing chat with you on a podcast. That could be one of my hours, or another hour could be having a coffee with a friend at a cafe. And so by doing that and writing down all the cool things we do, but also all the mundane things we do, like my admin for my business is the next hour, or it could be doing my social media posts, or like things that don't really excite me, but I do it anyway for my business. Right. We can see, okay, these are the things that we did today, and then we can pick from that 1, 2, maybe even 3 things that we are really grateful for. So it's, for me, this would be a highlight of my day. This would be one thing that I am grateful for, is the fact that we're talking about gratitude. It's a cool thing. It doesn't have to be that profound. It could be that I love coffee. I'm a coffee drinker. So I'm having a coffee right now. Just the taste of it. I'm drinking my favorite coffee, and the smell associated with that. And when we do this, we find that we don't regurgitate the same things every day unless we did the same thing every day, which is impossible to do that over a 12-hour period or 14-hour period. We don't regurgitate those big things because we don't think about those big things. They're there, the family thing, the house thing. If you've got a house, your health, if you've got good health, they're always going to be there. If you've got a job, that's going to be there as well. But these little things are the things that give us joy and ground us in moments as well. And so I found that I don't need a journal for this. I can actually just think about my day on the go. So I can think about this gratitude thing right now because we're talking about it, or I can sit in the car on the way to swimming practice after school with my son tonight and be grateful that I've got a moment, a dad-son moment, where I can take him to swimming and watch him learn how to swim. He's only 5, so he's learning how to do his freestyle at the moment, which is really cool just to watch. And so, I can do that on the move. I don't need to write it in a diary, and I don't feel like I failed because I haven't filled the diary up and all that type of stuff. And it's been a really powerful shift in the way that I've done it. And I can tune into that when I'm feeling stressed or anxious or depressed or whatever. I can go, okay, have I done any practicing gratitude lately? Have I thought about my day in an hourly chunk way? And then I could just do it. I don't have to, schedule it in or anything. It just becomes natural. So it's a really cool trick.
Yeah, no, that is great. I mean, I think that's a great idea that kind of do it an hour at a time. I kind of have that too. I set reminders on my phone every hour, and then I do kind of like you, a gratitude practice of what did I do in the last hour that I'm grateful for. And then I also, look at what do I want to complete in the next hour, so I stay focused. But yeah, I think that's a really cool way to do it, because like you said, we don't really realize, like, if we wait until the next morning or the end of the day, we don't realize all the things that we've done. And it can be hard to think about the things that we accomplished, because we just do so much goes on in a day. So it's really cool to just break it up throughout the day and then do it kind of as is. And again, like you said, you don't need a journal. You can do it on the fly. Like the other night, my husband and I went grocery shopping, and I was feeling really down because, the prices are so high right now. We're getting like half of what we used to. And, I found myself just kind of getting a little bit down, and I was like, oh, but wait a minute. I'm grateful that I can buy groceries. I'm grateful that, so doing it on the fly and being able to do that and recognize that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, and you're right. It shows you what you achieved in that day. Because when we're on autopilot, we think like, we're never achieving, or we're never, realizing these big goals that we've got. But it helps us focus on the little steps that we take. It could be for a business. I've only been in business for a couple of months now. It's only a new business, so every little step I can see this through a gratitude practice, and say, I am doing stuff, even though I'm not where I want to be or where I think I should be. I am still doing stuff that matters to the business as well.
Yeah, and it helps keep you motivated to keep going. Like, I am making progress. Yeah, because a lot of times we are concentrating on that big to-do list we have. And if we don't check things off, then like you said, we kind of feel like we didn't accomplish any things. So
definitely.
Yeah. So how do you feel gratitude should be regarded in the world? So kind of taking it from, us personally to the bigger picture of, communities and countries and things like that, especially considering that we have gone through this worldwide pandemic over the last couple of years. So any thoughts on that at all?
It's hard to do it for the world, but I think I can do it for men's culture. So men's culture is something like, so as I said, I've lived with mental illness for 30 years. I'm 39 now. So this all started when I was 8 years old, and I grew up in 80s and 90s when the discourse around men and mental health, or mental health was not even a subject that we talked about, but men's culture was suck it up, be a man. Men don't cry, so boys don't cry, so be tough. And so as I've gotten older, I've really done a lot of reflection, and it's taken a long time. It took me 20 years to go see a doctor in the first place and start talking about mental health. And that was 10 years ago this year. So I've only been on this recovery pathway for 10 years. And so after a lot of reflection, I go, okay, everything I've learned about being a boy and a man was shaped by things from the 80s and 90s, and even like what my parents went through and how they understood the world as well. But it doesn't have to stay like that. And so through gratitude practice is a great way to reflect on where we've come from and where we are at the moment and where we're going as well. And being, as you said, being grateful for being able to buy food, or being grateful that we can connect on the internet and have this amazing conversation across the globe. And I love podcasts particularly, and that's why I love doing my own podcast too, is that we can connect with people across the world but talk about the exact same thing that we've been thinking about. So all of a sudden we feel less alone in the world. And particularly for men who like me, bottle things up and didn't feel comfortable talking about things because they were socially conditioned not to talk about things. They can start to realize, okay, I can be grateful for being a guy, and grateful that I can recognize that whatever's happening or troubling me inside, that's not something that I want to live with and bottle up anymore. And I can be grateful for that. And I can be grateful that I can go and talk to a doctor who can diagnose me and set me on a recovery pathway, whether or not that's medication, whether or not it's different types of therapy. That might not even be the process that you go through. It might be finding a coach, a life coach, or a mentor, or even just talking to your partner, saying,
right, yeah,
I've been thinking about this lately and it's getting me down. And could be the price of groceries, you know. It wasn't that long ago when we were hearing stories about $5, $6, $7 lettuces, you know,
right, yeah.
like it's just, and that gets you down. Like as a parent, like, you know, we're like, how are we going to manage our household budget? So just hearing these conversations through a podcast, I think it inspires guys, and particularly men's culture, a shift in that discourse that men can talk about stuff. And it's okay to talk about stuff. You're not any less of a man. You're not weak. You're not feminine. You know, in the 80s and 90s, you were labeled as gay if you talked about this type of stuff.
Right.
And usually, you know, derogatory and stuff like that. But it doesn't have to be like that anymore. We can open up and talk about things. And gratitude's a great way to do it because A, you can do it without anyone noticing, like we talked about. You know, you can just make mental notes. Or B, you can make it like it. You can do it in a diary if you want to do it in a diary or on your phone or whatever. And it's a great grounding practice as well. It grounds you in the moment and really helps you reflect on, this is how far I've come. Like for me, it's 10 years this year that I've been talking about mental illness. I would never have thought that I would be a podcaster talking about men's mental health. And I'm grateful that I did talk about this 10 years ago. And it's taken me 8 years. It wasn't until I experienced burnout that I started talking about it in the open, like mental illness in the open. But I'm grateful that I've been on the journey because now I can inspire another generation of men and boys, particularly my son who's 5, like that they can talk about things. They don't need to bottle it up like I did. They don't need to you know, end up a statistic like a family and domestic violence perpetrator,
right,
or you know, death by suicide. You know, men are 75% more likely to die by suicide. And so we don't have to be that data. We don't have to be those statistics. We can be change agents and change the world for a better place. And gratitude is a fantastic place to start. And it starts with us. It starts within. And it can be inwards. Nobody has to see it. Like whenever we think about gratitude and guys say the word gratitude, every other guy shuts off. Like, that's too hippie. That's not me. I'm not going to do that. That's not masculine at all. I was one of those guys when I first heard the word gratitude and mindfulness. So, you know, I've got Mindful Men now as a business. And mindfulness and gratitude go together. And when I first heard it, I'm like, no way. Like this, just fix me. Don't give me meds. Just give me therapy. Fix me. Don't mention gratitude or mindfulness. But we've got to, you know, break that down as well and say these are just words. These are just tools. At the end of the day, they're just tools. Same as the tools that we have in our garage to fix our cars. These are tools to fix our minds. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I just want to commend you and thank you for what you do because like you said, I mean, having an avenue, a way for other men to, you know, kind of talk about or think about the challenges that they go through, you know, like you said, it's not very normal or regular for guys to kind of reach out and talk about challenges that they're going through. So yeah, I mean, I think it's great that you have, you know, taken on what you're taking on so that other men in the world know that it's okay, you know, to talk about this stuff and to feel certain ways. And it doesn't make them less of, you know, a person or a man at all. So yeah, first of all, thank you. And then next, I mean, you know, tell us more about what you do. Tell us more about Mindful Men. Like what is it that you do and how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, so I found mindfulness through my therapy, my own therapy, and it was around the same time that I found gratitude the first time, and the reason we were looking at mindfulness was because my mind races, my brain goes in 500 different ways all at once. I find it hard to concentrate and focus on what I should be concentrating. So mindfulness was a great technique that I started using, particularly as I was coming through my burnout recovery. To ground myself in the moment, which helped me be a better dad and husband because I could be in conversations instead of being on another planet. And so I've taken that and the tools that I've used in that recovery process and then done a bit more reading. So I'm really interested in acceptance and commitment therapy, which is a mindfulness-based practice. We've because that also talks to our values and our identity. And those are two things that guys kind of lose track of over time when they become, go on autopilot life mode. Who are they as dads, and who are they as blokes in the world, and friends and husbands and sons and uncles? Like, what does it mean, and what is the thing that drives them to be who they are? And also in that, have they lost sense of who they wanted to be and what they wanted to do when they got old? We ask kids, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they say, oh, I want to do be a spaceman or a firefighter or whatever. Right. But then we go through teens and then early adulthood, and we might end up being a diesel mechanic or something like that. That doesn't light you up in the slight. It doesn't light me up, the thought of being a diesel mechanic. Some guys it does, and that's fine. Or they might have been a doctor and they hate being a doctor. I talked to a guy the other day who was a physio and didn't really enjoy being a physio, but wanted more from his life.
Right.
And so he changed career pathways. And that's kind of what I did. I always wanted more in my life. So I went and did my social work degree because I wanted to work with people like me. And so I did that. I shifted careers, started Mindful Men, really drawing on these concepts of gratitude and mindfulness as well. And so, I do private therapy. I'm a private practice owner. I do in Australia primarily, or I'm only able to do in Australia because like insurances I can't do globally. But I do one-to-one therapy over things like Zoom, like telehealth, or in person on the Sunshine Coast, was where I live as well. So, and I like to take therapy outside of a clinic space. I've got a clinic room one day a week where people can come if they want to, but I also like to get out in nature because that's a great way to practice mindfulness on the move. So if guys want to go for a walk and talk at the same time, getting the vitamin D, using our five senses to ground ourselves in the moment, but and bringing in the gratitude. Like, it's nice to be able to walk in the sun with another guy talking about what's going on, and then at the end of it have some positive endorphins going through our body because we've done some exercise at the same time. So it's that kind of concept as well, and just really working with guys on their values and their identity, and being mindful in the moment and finding the joy back in their lives, rediscovering the person that they wanted to be when they were young, and that firefighter or the space cadet or whatever it is that they wanted to do. So that's pretty much it. And then from there, I've got the social media stuff, which is a lot of free resources. Like it's daily, it's not daily posts, but it's like affirmations type stuff. It's information if I come across a good news article or whatever. But I've also got the Mindful Men podcast, which demonstrates to guys that we can have conversations with people all over the world about completely things that you would think, this is not a man's discussion. Why am I listening to someone talk about school social work, for example? That's one of the ones that I did. But in that conversation, we talked about gun control in the US. We talked about Roe versus Wade, which impacts parents and kids as well. We talked about school social work because what does it mean for, like, in the US? And this was with a US social worker. That's why I'm talking about this particular one. Is like, as a school social worker, like their fear of going to work, right? But also, it's dropping their kids off at school as well. So these are all things that impact guys and men, as dads. Like, I think about, okay, where am I going to send my kids to school, and is it a safe place, and what's happening in the politics of Australia that influence how I parent and how my kids can grow up as well, and stuff like that. So I have all these random discussions with people all across the world to help guys be mindful of who they are, right? But also how they can grow as well. And so when we can start getting that critical self-reflection going, that's the moments where we can change to be the better and be the guy that we wanted to be, but the one that we've been on autopilot with because of all the society pressures to say that men have to go to work and do a 9 to 5 and provide, be the patriarchy, right? All that stuff, which is BS, really.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So yeah, that's what I do in a nutshell, and it's been a passion of mine to talk about my story and show guys that it's okay to talk, and I'm just glad that I'm now finally able to do it, and I've shifted careers and I've opened up the business, and yeah, things are going really well.
That's awesome. So we will have links to your website and your social media links, and also to your podcast and the video description. So anybody's interested, they can find that information there. So before we close, do you have any final thoughts or key takeaways that somebody watching this episode can walk away with?
Yeah, I think gratitude is a fantastic way just to be in tune with yourself and rediscover joy. As adults, we kind of forget sometimes how to have fun and to recognize the fun in our lives and stuff like that. So it's nice to be able to tune into that inner child of ourselves and go, yeah, you know what, playing guitar, I've got a guitar behind me, like playing guitar is fun for me. Right. Or getting out in the garden is fun for me. Or doing bombs in the swimming pool when the kids are home with the kids is fun. Like we can have fun, and it's okay as an adult to do that type of stuff. So practice, find a way of gratitude that works for you and rediscover those fun things, because once you can do that, you know, the world issues that we've kind of touched on, like COVID, inflation, higher grocery prices, all that type of stuff, they kind of melt away and you can kind of just be in the moment. So exactly. It's a really cool place to be.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for being here and for all of the knowledge and insight that you shared, and for sharing your experience as well. I'm sure that so many people will take away some great stuff. And then thank you, audience, for being here and for watching. So be sure to check out our other episodes of the Energy of Gratitude series. If you are getting as much out of it as I am, be sure to let your friends, family, and others know. And be sure to subscribe below if you haven't already to get notified of future episodes and videos on our channel. Thanks again, and we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.